We're rolling.
Welcome to the House Dudes podcast, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Jack Haas.
And I'm Josh Koth. Here at House Dudes, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
Well, we have Melanie Finnegan on the call here today, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. And there's a lot to cover here, but Melanie, you're really an expert, or you have some expertise in tax liens, and we haven't had a lot of people on the podcast to talk about this. So this is a pretty new and exciting subject for us, but we probably should start with talking a little bit about your background and what got you into this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. First of all, I really appreciate it. It's nice to meet you guys. My name is Melanie Finnegan, and I have been doing tax liens investing for clients and myself for 10 years. I started in the industry just sheer luck. I was not really in a career 10 years. It was almost actually 11 years ago. I was not really in a career looking for a job. I'd just gone through a divorce, kind of finding that job, needing it, making ends meet. And I walked into a company, and I tell everybody I have a vintage Volkswagen convertible Bug.
Oh, sure.
And I say my Bug got me my job, because I pulled into their parking lot, and I was afraid that they would actually think, who's this hippie girl? She's got her hair in her ponytail. She's in this, and there was two restored Volkswagen Bugs in the parking lot. And it was two of the three owners, they were theirs, and we hit it off at that moment. So I'd never done sales. I love people, but I went in for a job to do more marketing and more like customer service stuff, not really anything, just something, if that makes sense.
Right.
And they just said, you need to be a portfolio manager. And I didn't really even know what that meant. I was just going, what? They wanted me to sell tax lien certificates. I'd never heard of the investment and what it can do for, in Utah, that's where I live. We do not have that. It's not a lucrative investment. It's a deed state. It's not. So I wasn't familiar with it. I was a property owner, but not familiar. Right. Anyway, so I said, okay, that's what you guys think. And just went on my way. Quickly advanced. I always tell people I'm not a salesperson. I'm terrible at sales. I have a fierce passion, and I love people. And I'm a relationship person. And so I was at the job opportunity added so much value to my life, just doing that. But it also made me study and learn. And about 4 or 5 years into it, I was able to create a strategy that we took national. So I was traveling everywhere, and it's a great strategy. It's with acquisition. If you know about tax lien certificates, there's that potential. But it's really about compounding interest and things like that. There's magic in tax liens. And I wanted to be an asset to these people I cared so much about. And so I would just sit in my garage or sit in my house and study. I never stopped studying it. I wanted to be the industry expert. I loved it. That's kind of where I was then. And then it's been 3 years ago, I started my own company, and I own Tax Lien Wealth Solutions. We have a concierge service. We do investing, education. I have my own inventory. So we vet everything and cherry pick liens. And I buy in bulk from the secondary market. So we're not competing on the primary market.
Sure. So can you, this is, like I mentioned, this is really a new concept for me in particular. So you find these liens. How does the whole process work? Like somebody who wanted to buy or get into this, can you go from start to finish? Like you find these liens and you're selling them. I'm sure can somebody vet and try to find these tax liens themselves, or do you typically have to go to somebody like you?
So let me kind of tell you first, a tax lien certificate, just so your audience knows what this is. Do you mind if I just share the definitions?
Yeah, no, please do.
Yeah, so a tax lien certificate is a certificate of claim against a property that has a lien placed on it. So It's just, and it's as a result of unpaid property taxes. So typically sold through the counties in an auction process annually. What happened, and that's the primary market. So Melanie and Tax Lien Wealth Solutions is secondary, but I want to talk a little bit about both real quick. The primary market is fierce. The competitiveness is very hard. It's an institutionalized investor that goes in there, such as, Deutsche Bank. They go in there and they buy everything. They monopolize the industry, U.S. Bank, all the banking institutions and large hedge funds. Mm-hmm. So when I go in there as a regular person, or Jack goes in there as a regular person to just bid on a property, and you've done your research and you're like, I want to bid on this certificate attached to the property, you're not going to get it.
Sure.
Interest rates are bid down. Plus, you just don't have I'm a regular person, a regular, person that walked into the auction. They just don't have those deep pockets. That the resources they have hundreds of bidders in there, several EINs, things like that. So it becomes frustrating for us regulars, right? Mm-hmm. So because they monopolize the industry, the institutions monopolize the industry, people don't do it. They hear about it. They know it's going to be lucrative. It's high yield, man. It's 16, 14, 18% plus maybe potential to get acquisition, which, takes your ROI way up. Mm-hmm. But so those large institutions, they season them for a couple of years. The ones that don't redeem, they sell in bulk on what's called the secondary market. I can access that market because I am a part of the National Tax Lien Association,
sure.
Which is, you're accredited, you have these. And so I buy in bulk and I'm able to, vet. I have my own calculations. I run numbers. I'm not a real estate investor. I'm a tax lien investor. It's high yield. It's interest gain. And then if you I posture the certificate and the investment in a way that, and when I vet, it's if you get acquisition, you're really going to love me. You're going to be on something that's an asset, whether it be, a vacant land, a vacant lot, or a structure that needs help, because there's no white picket fences on properties that get lost in tax liens. There's just not. So that's kind of in a nutshell, but go ahead. And if you have questions, feel free.
So you buy these tax lien certificates, and then you're in hopes that the property owner redeems them or satisfies them. Is that how that works?
How I do it on the primary market, that's how it works. How Tax Lien Wealth Solutions, because we're a different animal, we prep them. It's very easy to initialize a foreclosure process. Mm-hmm. So you basically just go online, you add you become the sole. There could be up to several investors on one parcel of tax lien, like several years past due. In Florida is where we're really focused. Because they cater to the investor. And as you know, and I don't want to talk to anybody like they're in kindergarten about this, but I think the importance of why this investment exists, it's really important for people to know and it's because the counties need that money, right? They have to meet their budgets. They have to, and that's because they need to pay our schools. They need to put anything, build our schools, pay our police officers, potholes, streetlights. They have to have that. So people we have 14 billion delinquent taxes a year in the nation. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So in the 1800s, they developed this, and it hasn't really changed, but they incentivize the investor. The only person that is affected negatively by this is the property owner, because he's delinquent. He gets a grace period while that certificate's there. But after that grace period, in Florida, it's 2 years. You can initialize foreclosure. So what I do is I prompt and urge all my clients to initialize foreclosure, because it maxes our return. We get the highest return, and it forces redemption, or we get acquisition.
Okay, so you either get paid or you get the land. Mm-hmm. So what's your disposition look like after the fact then? Let's say you're stuck with the land. Do you just sell it on the open market, or how does that look?
Part of my service with my company is, so I've retained clients for 10 years. We've been working together for 10 years. Right now I have 130 deeds that we've acquired and I facilitate the sale. It's part of my service. I don't charge fees for it. Keeps me honest. So I always tell my clients, keep me honest. Don't pay me. This is something that I want to provide because nobody knows what to do with a tax lien certificate once they buy it, they invest in it. They just don't know what to do. They get into a little bit of a paralysis. And so we just encourage them to allow us to take over. And if we get acquisition, I have buyers that are wholesalers, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then I have people just sending us letters constantly, like, we want to buy your lot. We got an offer. Just for an example, I invested in a client in a tax lien certificate for $313. He ended up filing foreclosure per my prompting, filing TDA, which is tax deed application. It's the foreclosure process. And it either shakes the money loose or it goes to deed auction. Well, he ended up getting the property. He was into the investment totally because he had to basically redeem the other investors $2,300. I asked him to. I'm a very big proponent on buy and hold. I have to. I was raised that way. My family is very blue collar, and we just buy and hold land. So I told him to buy and hold. He was using his retirement funds because it is an alternative investment. And he only held on to it for 8 months, and we got an $8,000 offer, which turned our ROI, up 89% or something. It was outrageous. But it's a line, you want to see how your portfolio works. And so if you get that property and you sell, I kill your ROI for you by doing that. And so we just, we have to clear title sometimes, which is about $500 to $600 through a partner I have. But it's easy, but you've got to know what you're doing or work with somebody that knows what they're doing. You have to.
So is that a pretty common scenario? You gave that example, but is that like an outlying example, or is that pretty common? What he?
I could give you another example too. I'm actually not going to give you this one because it's a little bit false. I mean, it's true, it's real, but it's creating an expectation that I don't want to create. But we've won some big ones, really big ones for clients. Made some big money, accidentally and on purpose. But another one that I had a client into an investment, $6,000. He was totally into it, $6,000. I prefaced him. He had another $50,000. He wanted to put him in tax liens. I said, no, you're not going to do this. This is when I was at the other company. I said, you're not going to do that because I want you to keep that money in there in case we get this property. I don't think you'll get it because I think it will be scooped up at deed auction because it was a structured property, but he loves property. He loves the tangible. And Tom, listened to me, and then he ended up getting the property. To my surprise, that's kind of what happens. Sometimes you win them. You win them. Nobody shows up at deed auction to buy it or whatever. Anyways, but he ended up getting the property. It was a 2-family unit, and he put the $50,000 into it. So now let's say he's roughly into it $60,000, all free and clear. It's a $150,000 property now. It's in my learning portal. I have a demo on it. You can see it, and it yields $1,600 a month in cash flow for $800 side. So those are the scenarios. The vacant land, I push my clients to buy and hold. It's like land just increases as it gets saturated by structures, in the neighborhood and the development. If it's in a development, I say buy and hold, depending on where we are in our ages as well. What our strategies are. Sometimes people don't want to do that and they want to liquefy, and that's why I contact my buyers.
So you mentioned about the deed auction. What happens if the property is purchased on a deed auction? What happens to your tax lien certificate?
If you're the investor, so what happens in Florida, it goes to, if the property owner does not pay, then it ends up going to the county, puts it up for deed auction for the local real estate investors in the area. You can attend as well or send somebody in lieu of you. But the minimum bid is whatever you have into the property. You, the investor, any fees, any interest, anything like that, that's your minimum bid. Nobody bids that, you're awarded the deed. Typically 99.9% of tax liens get redeemed.
Okay, sure. So you're more likely to get a redeemed tax lien certificate versus the property.
Yes, but there is strategy to get property. But I have to really have like interview with that client to know, I kind of accredit them a little bit, make them a little more accredited so that I know financially they're able to do. I have boots on the ground. I can get people over there to, we're national, so we're investing everybody all over the states. So our focus is in Florida. I've done a little bit in Connecticut, but Florida is just the best. And so there is strategy to get property that will increase our chances. It's all about the numbers. So.
Sure. Okay. So how many people who come to you, is it typically first-time investors? What does that investor look like?
Gosh. So as you heard me mention earlier, it's an alternative investment. And just so your audience understands that, what I mean by that is it's an approved investment vehicle for a self-directed IRA. Only 10% of our nation knows about self-directed IRAs, and I think that is the beauty of tax lien investing. It's not the only monetary thing that you can invest with, but our 401ks and IRAs are just not making money, guys. Like, that's just the bottom line. It's just not. If you're going to make 6, 7, 8% versus 18 to 24%, you can do an alternative investment, which is tax lien investing. So a lot of people come to me and we get them converted. I have somebody in Boston that does all of our self-directed IRAs. They convert their IRA over and we start utilizing those funds, and they're kind of panicking a little bit. They're like in their, I'll age myself. I'm 40. And so they're all kind of my age, right now, kind of panicking a little bit. Like, we need to but they don't have maybe a stash in savings, but they've got their IRA. And so we just get that their IRA self-directed,
Sure.
Give them some checkbook control and control investing in what they love. I mean, who doesn't love real estate?
Right.
It's and getting high yield, and so we do that, but the investment's for everybody. Cause as you heard me say, we got a guy invested in a property in a certificate for $313. So I don't want to pigeonhole anything and say it's an open book. There's not a scarcity of tax liens, and anybody can do it. They just need to in order to see the high, stay with it, stay with the investment. Don't, and consider yourself the house, because the house always wins in tax liens. That's just what it is. It's just how it works. It's just nature of the beast, I guess. But the counties and the government's really protected us that way as investors.
Sure. So let's say you, like in this scenario, you said the $313, he bought that certificate. If the certificate was redeemed, what would be his typical return versus getting the property?
So 18% per year or 1.5%, 1.5% a month, whichever is greater.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and then that's just communicated to the person who's paying the taxes then in some way, like
stated, yeah. I mean, you can go to the county website and see it.
Sure. Okay.
And you people, I create businesses for people, not myself. I have people set up entities and everything. I like them to have asset protection with that, acquisition. Just learning over the years, I know, and a lot of you have to do that with checkbook control on your self-directed IRA anyways.
Right.
So you'll be able to log into the county and you'll see, your stated, your interest rate that you're making. But no matter what, my strategy makes them 18% a year or 1.5% per month, whichever it is.
So you have these tax liens. Do people get like selective on the tax liens that they're buying, or you just kind of offer them up and people just kind of buy them like a wholesale property? I guess that would be the closest thing that I'd have.
So tax liens are not property. I always like to make sure, because people get it confused with tax deed investing, which we do as well. And it's the same thing. It's delinquent taxes. But tax liens, they look at it like a real estate investor. Like, the hardest client I could have, a lot of people would be like, an accountant. And I'm like, no, an accountant loves my Excel spreadsheets. I'm the biggest nerd ever, so it's okay. But it's the realtors, because they like scrutinize it, and it's all a data analysis. It's all about the communication of the numbers that speak to us.
Sure.
the exit strategy I use, because I'm conservative and I protect my clients, is the assessed value. I don't even use market value. So, because I want to wholesale it. I think everybody needs a piece of the pie, so I always tell anybody, any of my buyers know they can't lowball us, but my clients also know we're not going to reach for the stars and get market value. Everybody needs a piece of the pie in order for the system to work that I have.
So when you sell these tax liens, then do the potential buyers get like what it would cost, and then like the address or what it's associated with, and then
I have a learning portal on my website that is a certification. If they're DIY people and I'm not just managing their money for them, we have a couple of different programs. We provide a fund. We're just launching a fund. And we're putting our white papers on our website too this week. So if your audience wants to go in there and download those, they're a huge asset to them. But if they have all the tools inside of my learning portal, the county links, I've created interactive maps so they can go to the county links. They just copy and paste their parcel, but they learn all of that information inside of my certification. So, or I'm just managing their liens for them, but nobody can buy from me if they're going to be a DIY, because I need these clients to have accountability, because people, like I said, go into paralysis, which I don't blame them. It can be nerve-wracking. And so I just require that they, in order to access my inventory, they have to go through my portal and get that certification. Plus they get to access it forever. You know what I mean? It's like It's a resource for them, and I have a United States guide, and I have the whole Florida county, every little how to file. It's wonderful. It's my blood, sweat, and tears. And it's, you know what I mean? But that's how I learned. I had to build, I became the expert that I am and the asset I am to the client at this point, because I haven't stopped learning. I haven't stopped studying.
So this portal that you're talking about here, they DIY it. It sounds like, is that something that they subscribe to, or how does that work?
Excuse me. So it is an annual. It's a one-time certification fee for $9.99, so $1,000. Gets their certification and access to everything, and then they pay a $99 after every year. They pay $99 for the maintenance and just the resources. I mean, they couldn't. It's hard to not. It's hard. I have a hard time putting a price, or I have a hard time charging for it, but I have to.
Right.
Just because it's, again, time. Lots of time and maintenance and stuff, and it's a very powerful tool. And if they're buying liens from me and they're accessing my inventory and that's what they want, it's a huge benefit for them.
So let's say somebody doesn't want to DIY it.
That's me. Then that's where I come in. I manage large bulks. So $50,000 requests and more, I take care of. So I just go out, put it in, and I manage it. They get 4 meetings a year. So they have 1 quarterly meeting with me every year. We go over everything. And look at their portfolios like this, like a video conference. And we, and I'm able to show them their liens, but I don't just say, here's your portfolio. They say yes. I just always tell people, don't unwind your own deal. Trust me a little bit, just give me just a little tiny bit, but go in there if you want to check things out. Absolutely. Again, keep me honest, right? Like just go in there and see that the liens are what I'm saying they are. The numbers don't lie. You just can't deny it.
Yeah, this is really an interesting concept. Like,
it's so awesome. I love it.
So I could probably just keep picking your brain all afternoon. So, and I'm going to put all of your links in the show notes so people have access to it. But is there any questions that you wish I would have asked? Like something that we needed to cover?
No, because sometimes I could go on and on about it, but because I'm that girl and I love to read the state statutes and I love to talk about them, but it's going to bore you to tears, and it's over people's head. Sometimes it took me a long time to learn this. I didn't invest in my own certificate until I think my 3rd or 4th year. Yeah. My son is 20 now. I've been single with him. He's at the University of Utah, but I was a single mom with him for, 12 years. And he started investing at 14. He was my assistant. When he went through the change and stuff, and his voice would sound like a man. He would come in on Saturdays for me and schedule appointments. And that's how he started to learn. And he became fascinated with the spreadsheets and the returns and wanted to do it. And he has 5 properties.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, in Sarasota, and I have 3. So, and I'm making him buy and hold them because they're building a spring training field right near his lots, and he's going to just make a killing. I mean, he was 14 years old when he started doing that. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
And so we just barely got our first youth client that's 15 years old with, he had to have his mom's permission and stuff, and we had to get all that from her. But I'm inspired by this 15-year-old kid because he's so excited about learning, and he wants to be, he knows what he wants. He just knows. And I want to mentor him, and watch him grow and become just what he wants to do. He's dreaming big, and he's going to achieve it because he's a doer.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I love my job.
Well, on that note, why don't we give the people, where can they find you and more information?
So just go to our website. That's the best thing. We're also doing a contest. So we're doing it monthly. I just started launching it in June. Go in there, enter it. We're going to be giving away the learning portal, which is $1,000 value. And we're doing 3 sessions for 2 hours with Melanie, with me, one-on-one, which is a $2,000 value. And so we're giving one of those away, then just little things here and there. So have everybody go to the website. It's taxlienwealthsolutions.com.
That's awesome. I can't thank you enough. You've been a pleasure to have on the show. And please reach out if there's anything we can do for you.
Hey, you guys, you too. Anything. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate everything.
We've put a lot of effort into providing useful content, and if you found value in the show and have any interest in supporting us with a small donation, head over to patreon.com/housedudes.
And if you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@housedudes.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @housedudes. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other investors out there find the show. And remember, massive positive impact requires massive positive action. We'll see you next time. This episode was brought to you by HouseDudes.com. Do you live in a good cash flowing market? If so, Turnkey isn't the best choice for you. You should buy in your market. If you don't live in a great market for investors, where can you find profitable cash flowing properties? We love the Midwest, where prices are reasonable and the people are great. We personally invest here and have lived in the area all of our lives. So how does Turnkey work? We find the property, we rehab the property, and we find you a tenant and place you under the care of our local property manager, who we trust with all our own investment properties. I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the contact form on housedudes.com, and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. We have a limited supply of properties every month, so we can only sell to a select few qualified buyers. We'll see you on housedudes.com.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.